Hi, it's Christa at the Secret Yarnery. Today we are making this fabulous sweater. Isn't it so cool? So 2 granny squares and a little bit extra at the bottom. It has a super easy join on your sleeves. It's just so fabulous. Plus a matching hat. That's another tutorial. So let me show you how to do it. To make your super easy 2 granny square sweater, you're gonna need yarn. So let's grab whatever color's yarn you want to use for your sweater. I picked 3 blues, 3 greens, and 3 neutrals. And then whatever crochet hook you want to use, this is size 4 worsted weight acrylic, just scraps. To make my size sweater, I used 585 grams of yarn, which is 965 meters, approximately. But you will use a different amount because this is based on your body size. So you could use more or less, but I used a little bit less than 6 balls of yarn, or 6 100-gram balls of yarn. But you could also use just one color. You don't have to change colors as often as I did, or you could just do it all in one color and not change colors at all. So it is up to you. Super cute, so fun and easy to do. And all you're gonna need is a crochet hook. I used a 6.5 millimeter crochet hook for my sweater, and a handful of stitch markers just to help mark where we're gonna be doing our joining, like sizing our sweater when we are done. So grab your yarn, your crochet hook. Oh, you're also going to need a pair of scissors and a needle for sewing in your ends. Here are the timestamps. You can jump back into where you left off, and let's get started. So we're going to start by making 2 squares, 2 granny squares, just using whatever yarn you have on hand. I'm using my 3 shades of green and 3 shades of blue and 3 neutrals, so a white, an oatmeal, and a gray. And I'm just doing it, so I'm doing a neutral and then 3 rows of color, and then a neutral and then 3 rows of color, and then a neutral and then 3 rows of color, all the way along. You can make your 2 squares exactly the same, or you could change them up. I'm going to start and end the same, but I'm going to do my colors differently. So this is finishing with blue. So for the other side, I'm going to finish it with green, just because I don't want it to be too blue dominant. So I'm going to mix and match mine, but I am going to keep to my 3 rows of color and 1 row of neutral for my square, plus the same color to finish and the same color to start. Other than that, I'm going to just do whatever colors I feel like at the time, or you could make yours matching. I did 21 rows for my square, so I'll just show you how to do that. For my granny square, I'm starting with neutral, but for the tutorial, I'm going to start with a brighter color just so you can see those stitches. The neutral yarn is quite similar to my background color, so I'm just going to do like a sample for you. So we're going to start by making a slip knot any which way you normally do, shrinking that down, popping it onto your hook, and I'm going to do a chain 3 ring. If you want to do a magic ring, you're welcome to do that as well. Just get a chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and slip stitch into that very first chain to form a ring. But before I slip stitch, I'm just going to get it formed around my ring or underneath my ring, forming a U shape. But I'm going to hold that open with my finger and thumb, with my tail along my ring. And then I'm going to slip stitch. And I'm still holding it open with my finger and thumb and my hook and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Wrap your yarn and make 2 double crochets into the center of your ring, right where you're holding it open. There's 1, and here's 2. Chain 2, and into the center of your ring, 3 more double crochets. And we're just working over that tail. If you work over your tail, you can cut it off when you're done, or you can also pull it snug and sew it in with a needle if you want to close that hole a little bit. So there's my second set of 3. chain 2, and into the center of your ring, 3 more double crochets. Each set of 3 double crochets forms one side of your square. And we're going to need 4 sides for our square. So chaining 2, you can push those stitches back if you need more room. You want all of your stitches lying side by side in your ring. And 3 more double crochets. There's 1, 2, and 3. Now I'm going to be changing color, but if you are going to keep going with the same color, you are going to chain 1 and go right into the top of that chain. Just push your hook in. You want 2 strands on the top of your chain, and you're going to join with a single crochet. So not a slip stitch, a single crochet. You can just hold that corner space open with your finger and thumb. So single crochet to join, and then chain 2. And that counts as your first stitch. Then you would turn your work, go into that same space with 2 double crochets. And then you would just do the same as we're going to do. Jump ahead and do a corner, 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. For me, I'm going to change color every round, but if you don't want to, just join and continue this way. So I'm going to change yarns. So I'm going to join a different way. So I'm going to get right back to our last 3 double crochets. I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to slip stitch into the top of the chain. So slip stitch to join. Chain 1 to secure your yarn, and cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail to sew in with a needle later. Pull your hook up and your yarn through, and snug that down to secure. Just like that. Now, for my granny square, I'm flipping it every round so that our squares stay square. They don't slowly twist to the side and get all wonky looking. So I'm going to turn my work, and I'm going to go into a corner that I didn't go into before. So I'm just going to pick the corner before our last join and put your new color on your hook. So new color on your hook, bring it through, slip stitch with both strands to join, drop your tail just holding along the side of your work, just along the top, and chain 2, 1 and 2. That counts as your first double crochet, and 2 more double crochets into the same space, and I'm working over my tail. Just for those 2 stitches right there. Now I'm going to drop that tail. Now working into the next corner, I have a tail there, so I'm just going to hold that tail along the edge of my work and make a corner. Corners are always going to be 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets, all into the same space. So every corner space gets 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets, all into the same corner space. Into the next space, a corner. So 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets, all into the same corner space. If you'd like to follow along with a written pattern, all of my patterns are available on my website, secretyarnery.com, and all of my patterns are written in plain English, just like I was sitting there right beside you. 3 double crochets, chain 2, and slip stitch to the top of your chain to join. Chain 1 to secure your yarn, cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail to sew in with a needle later, pull your hook up and your yarn through, and snug that down to secure. And we're just going to keep doing that. So remember, if you wanted to keep going with the same yarn, do like I showed you in this first round with the green. And if you're going to change colors like I am, like right now it feels like we're changing colors too often, but as your square grows, it looks really nice if you do change colors every round. It just looks a bit fancier for the pattern. If you do 2 rows at a time, it also is nice. It's just more of a color before you change. So as often as you want to change colors, you can change colors as often as you like. So to start a round, same thing. We're just going to turn your work. We want to be working into the back each round and go into a corner that we haven't joined our yarn. So I've joined yarn in that corner. I've joined yarn in this corner. I'm just going to pick a new corner. And you can just alternate a new corner that you haven't joined right underneath recently. Grab a loop of your next color, pop it onto your hook, bring it through, slip stitch with both strands to join, drop your tail just holding it along the side of your work, and chaining 2. That counts as our first stitch, and into this same space, 2 double crochets, and we can work over our tail for these first 2 stitches. And then into the space along the side, that is 3 double crochets into the space. And as our granny square grows, each round there's going to be 1 more space along the sides. So that's how our granny square is going to be growing. So each space along the side gets 3 double crochets. And however big your square is how many spaces along the side there's going to be. And then the corners get a corner, 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets all into the same corner space. Along the side, 3 double crochets. So you can keep working around corners, 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, and into the spaces along the side, just 3 double crochets into that space along the side. So pause the video, work your way around, and I'll meet you when you get right back over here where we began. When you get back to where we began into this space, this corner space where we began, we just want to finish that corner. So we've done 3 double crochets to start out. We want to do 3 double crochets to finish into that same corner space. And I'm going to change colors. Remember, if you want to keep going, you're going to do a chain 1 and a single crochet to join. If you are changing colors like I am, you're going to do a chain 2 and a slip stitch into the top of the chain to join. Chain 1 to secure your yarn. Cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail to sew in with a needle later. Pull your hook up, your yarn through, and snug that down to secure. Now, for the next round, we're going to be doing the same thing, but now there's 2 spaces along each side. Remember, each round, we're going to get 2 more spaces along the side. So this round has 2. The next round is going to have 3, and then 4, and then 5 on each side. So that's the only thing that changes. We're going to be doing the exact same thing. So just turning your work over, finding a corner we haven't worked into recently, popping your hook in, grabbing a new color of yarn. I'd be using neutral. If it was me, I would be putting the 3 colors and then a neutral. But for the video, I'm going to be putting in bright colors that you can see. So loop of yarn on your hook, bring it through, slip stitch with both strands to join, drop your tail just holding it along the top edge of your work, chaining 2 and 2 double crochets into that corner space. And into each space along the side, 3 double crochets into each. And your corners, 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. Just like that. So now you can pause the video, keep working along, 3 double crochets into each space along the side, no matter how many spaces there are, 3 double crochets into each, and corners, 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. I'll meet you all the way around when we get right back over here where we began. When you get back to where we began, we're just going to finish off that corner with 3 double crochets into the same space where we began. So 3 double crochets into that same space where we began. And if you're going to join and continue, you're going to do your chain 1 and single crochet into the top of that chain to join. Hold the corner open with your finger and thumb, chain 2, turn your work, and 2 double crochets into that same space. And as your granny square grows, if you haven't changed colors for a while, you might want to pop a stitch marker into that corner space just to mark that that is the corner space and you don't miss it when you're coming around if you're using the same color. If you are not joining and continuing, after your last double crochet, we're going to chain 2 and slip stitch into the top of that chain to join, and chain 1 to secure our yarn. Cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail to sew in with a needle later. Pull your hook up and your yarn through and snug that down to secure. And we're just going to repeat that round after round. I did mine for 21 rounds, but you want your granny square to be the size from the top of when it's folded in half, from the top of your shoulder down to just underneath your bust, or any size you like. It's your sweater. You could also make it to fit your arms. I'm making it to go a little bit lower. So make your granny square the size that you like, and then make 2. So when you finished your second square, just at the end, we're just not going to cut our yarn. We're just going to keep going with this yarn to join up our 2 squares. I'm just going to finish our round the same as always. So 3 double crochets into that last corner space. Chain 1, and we're going to single crochet into the top of our chain to join. So we're going to make a single crochet. That leaves us in the middle of that stitch. Now we're going to grab our first square. It doesn't matter what side of your granny, let me zoom you out a bit. It doesn't matter what side of your granny, like these sides, doesn't matter. What we want is our edge facing up. So our pretty little V's, they match. You don't want it to be on that side. See all that spaghetti? We don't want the spaghetti. We want that those pretty little V's along the edge showing or facing up. So now I'm just going to bring my hook up a little bit, and I'm going to take my hook out, pop it in to this opposite square, that corner space, and put that loop back on my hook because we just want to join these a little bit snug together. It'll get pulled no matter what, so this will help us. And we just want to chain 1. And now we want to rotate our work so we're working along our new square, that square that we just joined. Spin that one, and the other one can just get out of the way for now. We're not doing anything to it. So here we are on on the first block that we made. And we're just going to go into that very first stitch. And we're just going to make 1 single crochet into each stitch, all the way up or all the way along this side of our granny square, just like that. So 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way along. You can pause the video. I'll meet you when you get to the end of this side. So we're just working along this one side of our granny square. I'm going to meet you when you get to the very first corner right here. So when you get to your first corner, I'm just going to make a single crochet into that corner space and pull your hook up again. Now we're going to lay out our squares because we have to join again to a particular corner. We want to make sure our pretty stitches are facing up and it's flat from our join on the one side. So we've joined over here. Now we're going to join here. This is going to be our neck in here. So slide your squares over, and we're going to do the same thing. So I popped my hook out, and I'm going to put my hook down into the opposite square and just bring that loop of yarn up to the top and chain 1. Now we're going to rotate our work again because we've finished our single crochets on this side. We have to work on this side over here. So rotate your work. carefully. And now into the block that we finished, into the space in between those sets of 3, the first set, we're just going to slip stitch to join. Slip stitch to join, and then back to our set of 3 here. We're going to do a single crochet into each. Single crochet into each stitch. And this is going to be the back of our sweater, so we're going to make, you can join it as high as you want. I'm going to join 4 of these squares. So into the next space, slip stitch to join, and then go back down and 1 single crochet into each of these 3 stitches on the block we're working on. So 3 single crochets and a slip stitch. So now I'm going to put my hook down into the space on the block we've already finished and slip stitch into that space. And then 3 single crochets into the square we're working on. Just that set of 3 stitches. Now into the space on the block above, slip stitch. So I've joined 4. I'm going to join a couple more, I think. On the back of my sweater, I think I want it joined up a little bit taller. It'll also help it not fall off your shoulders, is what I'm thinking. Maybe I'm going to join for 2 more. We'll try. We'll see. So into the block we're working on, 3 single crochets, 1 into each stitch. And then slip stitch into the space on the block above. One single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. And slip stitch into the block we're working on. So now I've joined 6. I think that's pretty good for the back of my sweater. Now all along this edge, we're just going to do 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way along until we get a few blocks away from the end of the row. That's going to be the front of our sweater. So you can also decide how deep you want that V-cut in the front, or if you want it quite closed or quite open, it is up to you. So pause the video, 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way along this side until you get a few blocks away from here. So I've gotten almost to the end of our side. I have 3 of these blocks left, and I'm just going to try it. I'm just going to join up these 3 blocks and see if that is enough. I can also just frog it back and we can join up a little bit higher. You could also try it on now and see how close you want or how much you want to close up in the front. It's your sweater. You can decide how much you want to close it. I'm going to try closing 3, but I'm okay frogging it back. But I guess I can try it for all of us. So I finished the 3 single crochets, and I'm going to slip stitch into that space, a little slip stitch, and then 1 single crochet. Let me get myself over here. 1 single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. Slip stitch into that space on the block we have finished. Three single crochets, 1 into each stitch. Slip stitch into the space on the block we have finished. And 1 single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. Just to finish off the side of our sweater, or the side of our granny square, just like that. Now I'm going to slip stitch around this space, a little slip stitch and a chain 1. Now I would cut my yarn and pull my yarn up and through, but I'm just going to pop a stitch marker in there and just put this over my head and see if I like it. It actually fits exactly on the neckline of the dress I'm wearing. So it'll stretch a bit over time, but I'm okay with that. I think it's pretty great. So now I can cut this yarn and pull my hook up and my yarn through and snug that down to secure. There. Now we have attached, well, we've made our neck hole. Now next on our list, we are going to join underneath the arms. So this is the neck. I'm just kind of going to fold it in half like that. So our neck is here. Here's the front, there's the back, and our sleeves. And this is a good time to grab some stitch markers. You could also grab a t-shirt or a piece of clothing that you wear a lot that fits your body, like it doesn't stretch too much, it just fits you nicely. And then you could also lay that out on top of your garment, or you can measure underneath your arms, like where this is going to fit on your body. So for me, it fits like underneath my bust line. So this is going to be my bust line, but it still has to fit there. Do you know what I mean? So measure around yourself, again, using a tape measure. Around your widest part. I'm 35, so I'm going to say I'm 36. And I'm going to divide 36 in half, which is going to be 18. So somewhere around there. Now crochet, oh, I have to go that way. Crochet does stretch. So I might make that about 17, and then I'll just see how many shells I'm going to skip on each side. So if this is 17, we'll say 8.5 in the center, and I think I'm skipping 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so I'm going to skip 7 on each side. You could adjust this if you want it like looser, like boxier, or if you want it smaller. It's up to you. Just keep in mind crochet stretches. If I've learned anything over the years, you're not as big as you think you are, and crochet stretches. So grab some stitch markers. We need 2 for each side. And on each panel, I'm going to count 7 shells back, or 7 sets of stitches. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm going to pop a stitch marker into that space in between number 7 and 8. You can do this whatever size you're making yours, and you just want to put it on both panels. We don't want to trust ourselves to like line things up. We're not. We're marking. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Because when you're joining, things can look wonkier than you think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So I've marked my spot where I'm going to start, and where I'm going to start is right in those spaces. I'm going to join my yarn into both of those spaces at once, and then we're just going to join it up. I want to do that on the inside of my sweater, and this is now officially the outside because we have our pretty little edge on our neck. So flip it the other way. So our macaroni is facing up. Our pretty V's are facing in, and we just line up those spaces again. So just like that. So now I'm going to join a really fast and easy join right into this space. So where both of those stitch markers are, you can go ahead and count again if you want to, but it's going to be great. Put a loop of yarn on your hook, bring it through both of those sides. So I have both of those spaces on the yarn, and slip stitch with both strands to join. Drop your tail, chain 2, and we're going to make a slip stitch into this space. So the next space over, we're just going to slip stitch. Chain 3, and into the next space, slip stitch. So this is a really fast and easy way to join granny squares, especially under the arm. And the trick is to make your slip stitches a little bit snug. For this first chain, we also have a lot of tension on my yarn. A small chain to start, then it doesn't matter. So 3 chains, slip stitch into the next space on both squares, chain 3, slip stitch into the space, chain 3, and we're doing that all the way along. It helps your granny square well, it just looks great as you join. And underneath the arm, it's a perfect join. You won't see this little weird chain. It'll just help fill in the space in between. You're going to love it. All right, so now into the next pair of spaces, slip stitch, chain 3. We're doing this all the way down along the sleeve. So you can pause the video, work along at your own pace. Oh, my yarn's catching over there. Okay. Slip stitch into the space, chain 3, slip stitch into the space, chain 3, slip stitch into the space, chain 3, all the way along. All the way until we get to that corner. So slip stitch, chain 3, and there we are into our corner space. We're going to do the same thing, slip stitching into both of those spaces at the same time. 1 slip stitch and a chain 3. Rotate your work so we can work along the edge of our sweater. And I'm working in to the back of my stitches. So depending on how many rows you had into this space, 3 double crochets into the space. And 3 double crochets into each space all the way around. And if you are new to crochet, you can just pop a stitch marker at this join, just so you know where you started. So now keep working along, 3 double crochets into each space all the way around. I'll meet you when you get right back over here where we began. When you get back to where we began, into that space before the join, I was going to go in and put 3 double crochets. And now into the top of our chain, I'm just going to go in and we're going to slip stitch to join and chain 1. Now it depends what we're going to do next. This is the underside or the inside of our sweater. Our chains are sitting here at the join. So I want to be working in, for this last round, into the pretty side or the outside of my sweater. So for me, I'm going to be turning my work. For you, if you're not turning your work, you're just going to go right into this next stitch right there and make your first single crochet. So skipping the chain and going into the next stitch. If you are turning your work, we're just going to go in to the next stitch right here. Just pop your hook in, and now we're just going to make 1 single crochet into each stitch on the pretty side of our sweater, all the way around the sleeve, just to finish it off. Like that. So pause the video, keep working all the way around, and I'll meet you when you get back to where we started, right over here. You can also move that stitch marker up if you are new to crochet, or you can just leave it there, whatever you want to do. So work your way around, and I'll meet you when you get back over here. When you get back around to where we started, just work into every stitch. And if in doubt, just go into those spaces, the granny spaces, or the spaces between your granny stitches, and that'll tell you like how many single crochets you need to be making into that set of 3. So into this last set, I've only done 1. So I need to go into the next stitch. And I also need to go into that chain, which is way over there. Now we can join with an invisible join or just a slip stitch. I'm going to do a slip stitch to keep it nice and simple. So slip stitch into that first stitch we made and chain 1 to secure your yarn. Cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail to sew in with a needle later. Pull your hook up, your yarn through, snug that down to secure. You can pop out that stitch marker if you haven't already. And now go ahead and do that on the other sleeve as well. So there is our sweater. It is joined up, so pretty. I insided it out So you don't have that chain on the outside. The chain is on the inside of your underarms. And the pretty little V's around the neck are facing up. So now we are ready to edge the bottom of our sweater. And there's a couple different options here depending on the fit you are looking for. So go ahead and try this on now. Make sure there's enough space. If it is loose, there's one way to finish it. If it is too tight, there's another way to finish it. So, or not too tight, but if it's snug, there's an option. If it is loose, there's an option. If it's just right, there's an option. So I'm just going to turn my sweater around so we can start joining. And I'm also going to be, because we turned our work for these granny squares, we turned our work for the granny squares so that the squares stay square. Your shoulders don't have like a twisted granny on them. But we're going to be doing the same underneath. We're just going to be we're turning our work for each round underneath our sweater so that the stitches match. So here, this is pretty side facing up. So I'm going to start kind of on the inside of the sweater. We're going to work into the back of our stitches or into the spaces. Well, this is where we're going to be working. So I also want to join near the join underneath the arm, just so all of our tails are kind of like in a hidden area, not in the middle of our sweater. So I'm just going to pop my hook in to the space before the join. So our join is right here. I'm just going to join before, but it doesn't matter where you join. It's up to you, but this is where I'm picking for my sweater. Put a loop of your new color on your hook, bring it through, slip stitch with both strands to join. Drop your tail, just holding it along the top edge of your work, and chain 2. Into the same space, 2 double crochets. So this counts as our first granny stitch, or set of 3 double crochets. And now here is where we can decide what we're going to do. If you want the body of your sweater to be loose, you can do 3 double crochets into each of these spaces. If you want your sweater to be a bit snug, then I will show you what to do. So loose, you're going to do 3 double crochets and 3 double crochets. For my style, I want a little bit snug underneath, well, right where it fits on my body, right underneath my bust line. I want it a bit snug. So I'm going to do a decrease into these 2 spaces. So I'm going to start with 1 double crochet into the first space, and I'm going to finish that stitch. Then I'm going to start a 2nd double crochet, but I'm going to leave those last 2 loops on my hook. And into the space after the join right over here, I'm going to start a double crochet, and then there's 3 loops on my hook. Wrap and take off all 3 loops. So that is a DC 2 tog if you are reading patterns. And 1 more double crochet into the same space. So that works as we started 4 stitches, but if you look at the top, it turns into 3 stitches. So it's just a nice way of doing that corner join. And now 3 double crochets into each space all the way along this edge of your sweater. That is my puppy outside barking. I apologize. He is getting full of beans right now, and he probably wants his mommy to go play with him. So you can pause the video, keep working along, 3 double crochets into each of these spaces, all the way until we get to the next join right here. I just want to show you what that join looks like underneath the arm. It makes it a little bit smaller, a little bit more snug. I really like that, but give it a try. Underneath the arms, and then see if you like it too. Crochet is going to stretch by nature, so it's always good to have as much form as you can while you're crocheting it. And now we're going to do the same thing right here at this center join. Those tails out of the way. So we have a space before and after the join. So before the join, I'm going to make 1 double crochet. Then I'm going to start a double crochet into that first space, but I'm going to leave the last 2 loops on my hook. And into the space after the join, I'm going to start a double crochet. But then there's 3 loops on my hook. I'm going to wrap and take off all 3 loops. and one more double crochet into that same space. So that's our 4 stitches that turn into 3 stitches. It just fills that space out nicely. Now, this is the front of my sweater. I've just joined 3 times here, so that's the front of my sweater. If you're making a maternity sweater, you could also do 3 double crochets into each of these spaces along the front. At the back, we have to do this. We don't need any billowing out on our back side. But now you can pause the video and keep working along, and I'm going to meet you when you get to the next join under the arm right over here. So there I am over at the next join underneath the arm. So I'm going to do my decrease here, but if you want yours to be bigger, you could do 3 double crochets into each of these spaces. For me, I'm doing a decrease, so 1 double crochet completed into the first space, starting a 2nd double crochet into the same space, but leaving those last 2 loops on my hook. Into the next space, I'm going to start another double crochet. So now there's 3 loops on my hook, wrap and take off all 3 loops, and 1 more double crochet into that same space. Just like that. And now 3 double crochets into each stitch along this side until we get to our back seam, or for me it's my back seam, it might be your front seam. The back seam, we're going to be doing a decrease for sure, because at our back we don't need our sweater gaping out. There's not too much curves back there, so we need it to just be nice and straight. So 3 double crochets into each space all the way until you reach that center seam. For me, it's at the back. So now we're at that center seam, so we're just going to do that same decrease. We're going to start into the space before the join. So you're going to start with 1 double crochet that you finish, and you're going to start a 2nd, but you're not going to finish it. You're going to leave those last 2 loops on your hook, and then you're going to jump over into the space after the join and start another double crochet. So you have 3 loops left on your hook, wrap and take off all 3 loops, and make 1 more double crochet into that same space. So that is your decrease. And now we're just going to do 3 double crochets into each space all the way along until we get back to where we started. When you get back to where we started, we're just going to slip stitch, so no chaining or anything. We're just going to slip stitch right into the top of our chain, 2 strands of our chain on the top of our hook. And I'm using a lot of tension. I want a small slip stitch just at the tip of my hook, just like that, and then chain 1 to secure your yarn. Cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail to sew in with a needle later. Pull your hook up, your yarn through, and snug that down to secure. Now we're ready to do another round. So I joined my yarn on this side here. So the next round I want to join on the other side. And you can also kind of take a look of how those decreases, let me just fold it. You can see how those decreases in the corners just kind of tapered it in and made it a little bit more snug. So that is why that is optional in these corners here. In the front and back, I would suggest keeping it that way because we do want it nice and flat. The corners depends on the space, how it feels on your body. For me, I love this, and it's going to stretch out anyway. I did try it on because it looks like it's very tiny. It's not. It's going to be great. So definitely give it a go, but just know you could also turn those each into just normal shells without doing all this shrinking cuteness in the corners. So now we're ready to start our next round, and we're going to be working into the back of our stitches or into the back side of our work. We're working into spaces, not stitches. But I also want to join my yarn on the other side of my work, so not where I finished my last tail, just to even out where the tails are when we sew them in later. So you can just pop your hook. Actually, I'm going to start on this side here so I can show you this join as we work around. But you could start anywhere. So just pop your hook into that space, loop of yarn on your hook, bring it through, slip stitch with both strands to join, drop your tail just holding it along the top edge of your work, and chain 2. Now into the same space, 2 double crochets. And into each space all the way around, 3 double crochets into each space. So here is our decrease in that over that join, and this is a space and that is a space. So into this space, 3 double crochets. And into this space, 3 double crochets. So that's what it looks like when we get to the joins at the front or back. We're just going in before and we're going in after. Just like that. So pause the video, keep working around. I'll meet you when you get back to where we started. When you get back to where we began, we're just going to slip stitch straight into the top of that chain. No chaining or anything to get there, just straight over after that last double crochet. And one tiny little slip stitch into the top of that chain. Chain 1 to secure your yarn. Cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail to sew in with a needle later. Pull your hook up, your yarn through, and snug that down to secure, just like that. And now I'm going to do 2 more rounds, and then I'm going to try it on, and we might be doing something a little bit different. So 2 more rounds, and meet me back. So I've done a few more rounds. I'm just going to try it on and show you some options. So that's it so far. Now, I'm just going to make mine a few more rows longer, but if you want to make yours like a proper length cardigan, and you have hips you're working towards down here, then we can do a little increase under the arm here to kind of let it flare out again. So we went in so that it's cute on our bust line, and now you can kind of scoop it out more if you want to make it longer. For my size, I don't think I have to do it, but I'll show you how to do it if you're making yours longer than mine and you have some. So if you want to add a little flare or a little increase as you work longer on your sweater, we're going to do that super easy. So I'm just going to start my yarn somewhere where I haven't started my yarn before. What we want to look for is underneath the arm. I should start by showing you that. Underneath the arm, we have our fat seam, our double seam here. We want to find that space right on top of that seam. Can you see how that lines up? We want to be doing our increase into this space. So you can pop a stitch marker in to the space that is right lining up with our funny increase. So here is our join and our funny increase. There's a space, and then up here is another space. So we want to find that stitch on both sides because we want to, of course, our increase to be even. So find the seam, find the funny block, and just keep going up to find that space right there. And you can just pop a stitch marker in. And I joined my yarn on this side in the row below, or in this last round. So I'm going to join on the other side. And always working from the back side of our work. So here is where we're going to be doing our increase. I'm just going to join my yarn a couple blocks ahead, just like we normally do. So slip stitch with both strands to join, chain 2, and 2 double crochets into that space. And 3 double crochets into each space going along. But then when we get to that space with the stitch marker, or that center space where our join is, it's a lot of sweater here, but that center space, that's where we're going to be doing something different. So you can pop that stitch marker out, and that is just to add a little bit of flare to your sweater. So into that space, 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 double crochets. So this space here is going to count as a space for the next round. So you can pop your stitch marker into that space just so you can see it. And then just keep going 3 double crochets into each space all the way around. When you get to the opposite side where that stitch marker is, you're going to do the same thing. 2 double crochets, chain 1 and 2 double crochets. Pop your stitch marker into that space. So for the next round, you know that you're going to put 3 double crochets into this space. And you can do that as often as you like. This increase round, I suggest maybe every 3 rounds or every 2 rounds. You don't need to do it that often. Just keep trying it on and seeing how you like it. For me, I'm not going to be doing the increase because I'm keeping my sweater a little bit short. So I'm just going to be doing my 3 double crochets. So now pause the video, keep working along until your sweater is the length you want it to be. So I've done 2 sets of colors, so 3 rows and a neutral and 3 rows. So I'm going to finish with my neutral color, same as the join. And I'm going to do 2 rows. And I'm going to do the same way, flipping my work. So I'm going to do 2 rows of neutral. So when you get back to where you started for that neutral round, I'm just going to join with a single crochet. So instead of a slip stitch, I'm going to do a single crochet and a chain 2. So that is going to count as my first double crochet and leaves me in the middle of that space. And now I'm going to turn my work. And 2 double crochets into that same space. That's going to be my first shell or my first set of granny stitches. Just like that. So now pause the video, keep working all the way around. I'll meet you when you get right back over here. When you get back to where we started, now we're going to slip stitch into the top of that chain to join. We're just going to slip stitch into the top of the chain, and it's a chain 2, so it's shorter than you think, but that's going to pull up our stitch and make it look tidy. So slip stitch into the chain 2, chain 1, and turn your work. So now we're going to do 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way around. So now you can pause the video, just keep working around 1 single crochet into each stitch just to finish off that top edge, or that bottom edge, actually, it's the bottom of our sweater. So 1 single crochet into each stitch, and I'll meet you when you get back to where we started. If you're new to crochet and your stitches all kind of look the same, you can pop a stitch marker into that first chain 1 that we did, that first stitch right there. Just pop a stitch marker in so you can see it when you come back around. Now, if your row count is different than mine, that is totally fine. This last round of single crochets, we want that to be facing, like we want to be working on the pretty side of your sweater for this last round. So if yours worked out, if you turn your work, you're going to be working on the inside of your sweater. Just don't turn your work. Work on the outside for this last round of single crochet. When you get back to where we started, you can kind of isolate your stitches it'll look different depending on if you turned your work or not. I haven't gone into my chain. So if you separate your 3 granny stitches like that, and on top, I've only done 2 of those stitches. So I'm going to go into my chain with my last single crochet. And now I'm just going to slip stitch into that first stitch where my stitch marker is, and chain 1 to secure my yarn. You could also join with an invisible join. Cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail to sew in with a needle later. Pull your hook up, your yarn through, snug that down to secure. Pop out your stitch marker, sew in your tails, and you're finished. So I hope you enjoyed making your sweater as much as I did. Don't forget to drop a photo of it in the community tab. You can find that on the channel. Just click community and then what's on your mind. You can drop your photo there so we can all see your gorgeous color choices. And I'm waiting for you in that video up there. Stay hooked. Come on, Rico, let's go. Well, that's not very fast, is it?
That's not very fast. Oh, my boy, my boy.